Look, I'm sitting here in Vegas at 3 in the morning, and my phone won't stop buzzing. It's commission officials, it's fighters, it's managers, all talking about this open scoring thing like it's going to save or destroy everything we've built. You want to know what's really going on? Let me tell you something. Every decision that sounds simple from the outside becomes a nightmare when you're the one who has to make it work. This is exactly the kind of behind-the-scenes reality that most people never get to hear about. The real conversation's happening at 3 in the morning when the cameras aren't rolling. The Nevada State Athletic Commission calls me last week. They want to discuss implementing real-time score disclosure protocols. That's how these people talk. Real-time score disclosure protocols. I said, English, please. They want to show the scorecards between rounds. Show everyone. The fighters, the corners, the crowd, the world. Exactly what the judges are thinking as the fight happens. Sounds reasonable, right? Maybe even revolutionary. That's what everyone's saying. Dana, this is going to change everything. No more bad decisions. No more robberies. Complete transparency. I've been in this business long enough to know that when something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. The commission guy explains it like he's talking to a child. Mr. White, imagine if Demetrius Johnson knew he was down 2 rounds heading into the 5th. Imagine if Robbie Lawler's corner could tell him exactly what he needed to do to win round 5 against Hendricks. No more confusion, no more controversy. I'm listening, but I'm thinking about what he's not saying. I'm thinking about what happens when a fighter sees those scorecards and realizes he's behind. Not the smart fighters, not the championship caliber guys who already know when they're losing. I'm talking about the desperate ones. The guys who are one loss away from getting cut. The guys with mortgages and families and nothing else they know how to do. We've seen what desperation looks like in that octagon. We've seen fighters take risks they shouldn't take, throw shots they shouldn't throw, abandon game plans that were working because they think they need a finish. Now we want to feed that desperation real-time information? We want to tell a guy who's already getting beaten up that he's officially losing on paper? But here's the thing. The commission isn't asking me. They're telling me. This is coming whether I like it or not. I remember when we first started working with these athletic commissions seriously. Before that, it was the Wild West. We had tournaments in one night, no weight classes, no time limits, minimal rules. Fighters didn't know what they were getting into half the time, and that was part of the appeal. Raw, unpredictable, real. Then the commissions got involved. Weight classes, rounds, mandatory safety protocols, referee training, judge certification. Every rule was supposed to make things better, safer, more fair. And mostly they did. But every rule also took something away from what made this sport special in the first place. Now we have judges who score fights in ways that make no sense to anyone who actually understands fighting. We have referees who stop fights too early or too late because they're following protocols instead of using common sense. We have athletic commissions who think they're protecting fighters by creating more bureaucracy. And the scoring system? Don't get me started on the scoring system. 10-point must system borrowed from boxing. 3 judges sitting cage side, watching the same fight, somehow seeing 3 completely different things. We've had fights where one judge scores at 30-27 one way, another judge scores at 30-27 the complete opposite direction, and the third judge has it dead even. Same fight, same 10 minutes. 3 completely different realities. Robbie Lawler versus Carlos Condit. One of the greatest welterweight title fights ever. Lawler wins a split decision that could have gone either way. 5 years later, people are still arguing about that fight. Not because the judges got it wrong, but because scoring a fight is subjective. It's art, not science. Now they want to make that art public in real time. I think about Leonard Garcia. Remember Leonard Garcia? This guy had a career based on getting into wars, winning fights that looked like losses, losing fights that looked like wins. Garcia versus Korean Zombie. Garcia versus Nam Fan. Garcia versus everyone. You never knew what the judges were seeing. Garcia would get beat up for 2.5 rounds, then have one good exchange, and somehow win a decision. It drove people crazy, but it also made every Garcia fight must-see television. With open scoring, Garcia never has another one of those magical nights. He sees he's down after 2 rounds. He knows he needs a finish. He abandons the strategy that got him there, and he gets knocked out trying to force something that isn't there. Or maybe it goes the other way. Maybe he sees he's winning after 2 rounds, plays it safe, coasts through the third, and turns an exciting fight into a boring decision. Either way, we lose what made Leonard Garcia special. But it's not just about guys like Garcia. It's about every fighter, every fight, every moment where not knowing the score creates drama. The commission guy keeps talking about transparency, about eliminating controversy. Mr. White, think about all the times fighters have been shocked by decision results. Think about all the times you've had to deal with accusations of fixed fights or biased judging. Open scoring eliminates all of that. No, it doesn't. It just moves the controversy. Instead of arguing about the final decision, now we're going to argue about every individual round score as it's announced. Instead of one moment of controversy when Bruce Buffer reads the scorecards, now we have controversy after every single round. And the conspiracy theories? Those don't go away. They multiply. Now every judge's score is being analyzed in real time by thousands of people on social media. Every 10-9 that looks like it should be 9-10 becomes evidence of corruption. Every close round becomes proof that the fix is in. We dealt with this kind of thing before in different ways. When Conor McGregor was coming up, every interview, every press conference, every appearance was about building mystique. The unknown was part of the appeal. What was he going to say? How far could he push things? What lines would he cross? Conor understood that mystery creates value. When everyone knows everything about you, when every thought is public, when every strategy is transparent, you lose something essential. You lose the magic. Same thing happens with fights when you make everything transparent. The not knowing is part of what makes people lean forward in their seats. The uncertainty is part of what makes the announcement of the decision matter. But the biggest problem isn't philosophical. It's practical. I'm thinking about corners. These guys have seconds between rounds to give their fighter crucial information. Ice on the cuts, water in the mouth, strategic adjustments, mental coaching, all in 60 seconds while dealing with commission officials, cutmen, referees, and television crews. These are the details that matter when you're actually running fights, not just watching them. The complexity that goes into every single decision at every level of this business. Now you want to add real-time score analysis to that chaos? Good corners, experienced corners like Greg Jackson or Faraz Sahabi. They already know roughly how the fight is being scored. They don't need a graphic to tell them their guy is losing. They've been watching the same fight as the judges. They understand the scoring criteria. They can read body language and referee positioning. It's the bad corners that are going to cause problems. The corners that don't understand judging criteria, that think their fighter is winning when he's clearly losing, that give terrible advice based on incomplete information. Those corners are suddenly getting official scorecards every 5 minutes, and they're going to make decisions based on that information without understanding what it means. You're down 2 rounds. You need a knockout. Becomes the default corner advice in every close fight. Doesn't matter if the fighter was executing a perfect game plan. Doesn't matter if he was slowly breaking his opponent down. Doesn't matter if patience was the key to victory. The scorecard says he's losing, so now he has to abandon everything and swing for the fences. We've seen what happens when fighters abandon their game plans. We've seen what happens when corners give desperate advice. Now we're going to institutionalize that desperation. The Nevada Commission isn't the only one pushing for this. New York wants it, California's talking about it, and where the big commissions go, everyone else follows. This isn't a maybe situation. This is happening. But here's what really bothers me about the whole thing. It's being sold as a solution to a problem that isn't really the problem. Bad judging isn't caused by secrecy. Bad judging is caused by bad judges. You can make the scoring as transparent as you want, but if the judges don't understand what they're watching, transparency doesn't fix anything. I remember sitting in the back after the Adelaide Bird situation. Bird scored Canelo GGG 118-110 for Canelo in a fight that most people thought Golovkin won. That wasn't a secrecy problem. That wasn't a scoring system problem. That was an Adelaide Bird problem. Making her bad score public in real time doesn't make it less bad. It just makes everyone angry about it sooner. The real solution is better judges, better training, better oversight, better accountability. But those solutions are hard and expensive and take time. Open scoring is easy and cheap and makes commissions look like they're doing something without actually doing the work. That's what frustrates me most about this whole thing. It's a shortcut disguised as progress. Look, I understand why people want this. I understand the appeal of knowing exactly where a fight stands at every moment. I understand wanting to eliminate the mystery and controversy around judging. I get it. But I also understand what we're going to lose. We're going to lose fighters taking calculated risks in close rounds because they don't want to give up a 10-8. We're going to lose patient, technical fights because both fighters know they need to be more active to win rounds clearly. We're going to lose those magical moments where a fighter who looks like he's losing finds a way to steal a decision through superior technique or ring generalship. Most of all, we're going to lose the human element that makes this sport special. Fighting isn't math. It's not supposed to be reduced to numbers on a screen updated every 5 minutes. It's supposed to be raw, emotional, unpredictable. The not knowing is part of what makes it beautiful. But the commissions have made their decision. The fighters are split. Some love the idea, some hate it. Most don't really understand what it means until it starts affecting their fights. The media loves it because they think it gives them more to talk about. And me? I'm going to adapt, like I always do. Because that's what this business requires. Constant adaptation to rules and regulations and systems that may or may not make sense, may or may not improve anything, but are definitely going to change everything. The commission says they're starting with smaller shows, testing it out, seeing how it works in practice before implementing it on big cards. But we all know how this goes. Once it starts somewhere, it spreads everywhere. Once one commission requires it, they all require it. Once fighters get used to it, it becomes the standard. In 5 years, we'll have been doing open scoring for so long that most people will forget there was ever a time when you didn't know the score until the end. New fans will think this is how it's always been. Old fans will argue about whether it's better or worse. But it won't matter because it'll be the only system anyone under 30 remembers. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe open scoring makes fights more exciting, more fair, more engaging. Maybe fighters adapt better than I think they will. Maybe corners use the information wisely instead of panicking. Maybe fans appreciate the transparency without losing the magic of not knowing. Maybe this becomes one of those changes that seems scary at first, but ends up improving everything, like mandatory drug testing or standardized glove regulations, or any number of other reforms that felt like attacks on the sport when they were implemented, but now seem obviously necessary. But right now, sitting here at 3 in the morning with my phone buzzing with calls from people who want to know what I think about real-time score disclosure protocols, I can't shake the feeling that we're about to fix something that wasn't broken and break something that was working just fine. The sport survived the transition from one-night tournaments to individual fights. It survived the move from no-weight classes to multiple divisions. It survived the shift from no-holds-barred to unified rules. It'll survive open scoring too. But survival isn't the same as improvement. And improvement isn't the same as progress. Sometimes the best thing you can do is admit you don't know how something's going to turn out and prepare for every possibility. That's what I'm doing now. That's what I've always done. We'll see what happens when the first big fight gets scored in real time. When the first fighter changes his entire approach because he sees he's losing on the cards. When the first controversy erupts not over a final decision, but over a single round score announced between rounds. We'll see if this makes things better or just makes them different. Either way, I'll be here dealing with whatever comes next, because that's what this job requires. Constant adaptation to a world that never stops changing, even when you're not sure the changes make sense. I keep thinking about specific fights, specific moments that would have been completely different with open scoring. Think about Forrest Griffin versus Stephan Bonnar at the finale of The Ultimate Fighter. That fight launched this company into the stratosphere, turned both guys into stars, and created one of the most memorable moments in combat sports history. But what happens to that fight with open scoring? Does Forrest see he's behind after 2 rounds and start throwing wild haymakers instead of the methodical pressure that actually won him the fight? Does Bonnar get comfortable knowing he's ahead and start coasting instead of continuing to engage in that beautiful war? That fight worked because both guys thought they needed to keep fighting hard until the final bell. The uncertainty drove the action. The not knowing created the magic. I'm also thinking about our production team, our broadcast partners, our entire media infrastructure. We've built everything around the current system. The tension of waiting for decisions, the drama of Bruce Buffer's announcements, the post-fight interviews where fighters are genuinely surprised by close decisions. Now we need graphics packages for real-time scoring. We need commentary protocols for discussing scores between rounds. We need commercial break timing that accounts for score announcements. We need social media strategies that deal with round-by-round controversy instead of post-fight controversy. ESPN's not happy about this either. They've invested billions in our partnership based partly on the drama and unpredictability that comes with the current judging system. Combat sports aren't like other sports where the score is obvious throughout. The mystery is part of the product we're selling. But here's what really keeps me up at night. We're about to change the fundamental nature of mixed martial arts based on complaints from people who don't really understand how fights are scored in the first place. The average fan sees a fighter land one big punch and thinks he won the round, even if his opponent controlled the entire rest of the round with superior grappling. The average fan sees a lot of movement and thinks that means effective striking, even if most of the shots are missing or ineffective. Now those same fans are going to see real-time scores that don't match their expectations, and instead of learning about scoring criteria, they're going to assume the system is corrupt. Instead of educating themselves about what judges are looking for, they're going to demand changes to judging criteria based on their misunderstanding of what effective fighting actually looks like. We're not just changing how fights are scored. We're changing how fights are perceived, how they're fought, how they're remembered. And we're doing it all to solve a problem that education could solve better than rule changes. This is the kind of industry insight you only get when you've been making these decisions for decades, dealing with the real consequences of every policy change, every rule adjustment, every attempt at reform. The phone's still buzzing. More calls about open scoring, more questions about implementation, more details about protocols and procedures and policies. But right now, all I can think about is the last thing the commission guy said before he hung up. Mr. White, this is going to revolutionize the sport. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. But either way, we're about to find out.